I've always had this longing in me, and I've never been able to put words to it, but I've always had this longing that I want to do something with my life. I want to create something. I want to live a meaningful life above all else. If that means that I might not be successful in the limelight, I'm okay with that. Like, I'm honestly okay with it. I just want to create, and I want to live a meaningful life. I want to look back at my life one day and say, like, it really mattered. Like, it actually made a difference in this world. And for whatever reason, I felt that at a very young age. And I never really could ever articulate what those feelings were. Like, as a kid, right, you have dreams, you have desires, you have these inklings of passions that you want to explore. And I don't know if sports was ever my, like, the passion that I was pursuing, as much as this thing on the inside of me that said that there is more. I chased football, I think, looking for that thing, because football was what I was gifted at. It was what I loved to do. It was a passion of mine. It was a desire of mine. And that's where it kind of led me down this journey of really chasing this longing, but it looked like chasing it through football.
A captain in star safety on Army's football team.
I dealt with so much internal pain and turmoil and confusion and depression and anxiety. All of these conflicting emotions were happening inside of me while I was simultaneously trying to play in the National Football League. And I knew if something didn't change and change soon, it was over.
Well, I have a story about a kid named Caleb Campbell who went to West Point, and now he's an NFL prospect. Here's a kid who could get drafted, but up until now has had this 5 years of military service that all West Point cadets have to serve. The Army, however, has a new policy. If you go into the elite leagues of the NFL or one of the other pro sports, you can get out of serving your active combat service.
It just doesn't make sense to me, though, the whole idea that we're going to hold this kid up as an example, use him as a recruiting tool, and meanwhile his story is, I went to West Point, but I didn't have to serve. You go, you're gonna have to serve. I just, it doesn't register for me.
There's a new policy the Army's put out where they think it's better PR to have elite athletes with special talents to be serving the Army by being good public relations for them, by using these special talents in places like the NFL, as opposed to serving in places like Iraq and Afghanistan.
I think the West Point is looking at this and saying he's more valuable as a symbol, as a recruiting symbol, than he is if he's going door to door in Iraq.
I think it's going to show a lot of people out there that are a little skeptical about the policy and a little, naysayers out there that, hey, this can really be good. This can be huge, beneficial for the academy, for the Army, and I think so it's going to help out with the whole idea of the policy that people are not really so sure on it, that they're going to be sure about it after this. And now that the policy's here, I'll be the first football player to actually go with this policy. That's been drafted.
Junior. Listen, Caleb Campbell being selected by the Detroit Lions out of West Point may have been the feel-good story of the second day of the draft, and maybe the entire draft.
And that's when Roger Goodell, the NFL commissioner, says, with the so-and-so pick, Detroit Lions select Caleb Campbell out of Army.
Detroit has selected Caleb Campbell, defensive back, Army.
And I remember thinking, like, oh my God, like, it just happened, bro. Like all the hard work, everything that I've ever dreamed about as a kid, like, it's here, man. Like, I just did it.
But then Campbell got ambushed.
2 weeks ago, the Army made a decision to revise their interpretation of a Department of Defense policy regarding athletes going professional, as opposed to serving 2 years active duty. This information was not relayed to Caleb Campbell.
When I first found out that I wasn't able to play football after I got drafted, it really hurt, because I've been working for this my whole life, and it's something I wanted my whole life. Didn't really ask too many questions. I just lifted up my head and carried on like any other soldier would. Over the past 2 years, during this waiting period, I've become a better soldier and a better athlete, and I really think that's going to carry me for whatever's next in my life.
We reversed their decision to allow safety Caleb Campbell to play in the NFL. He's getting another shot. According to several reports, Campbell has signed a free agent contract with the Detroit Lions.
So I get to the NFL, I'm actually playing, I'm on the team, I make the practice squad, they move me up to active roster. Every time I hit the field, there's still this fear. Like, I don't think I ever went to the NFL facility, like a practice facility, whether it was Detroit, the Indianapolis Colts, or the Kansas City Chiefs. I never went with this nauseous feeling in the pit of my stomach, because every time that I went to the NFL practice facility to start the day of work and to start practice, it wasn't so much, I never saw it as an opportunity to get better. I never saw it as an opportunity to grow and to become a better football player. I saw it as an opportunity to be exposed, and that began to suffocate me. That began to put more pressure and more pressure and more pressure. And every day I tried to ignore it. Every day I tried to achieve my way out of it. I tried to become bigger, faster, and stronger so that I could suppress those feelings. And because of the pressure that I felt, because of the fear that started to suffocate me more and more every single day, like I purposely started self-sabotaging. I purposely stopped studying my playbook. I purposely started going out when I should be home sleeping. Like I started to do things that was going to purposefully get me cut because I didn't have the courage to quit, because football is the only thing I've ever known in my life. I dealt with so much internal pain and turmoil and confusion and depression and anxiety. All of these conflicting emotions were happening inside of me while I was simultaneously trying to play in the National Football League. Like it wasn't working, and it was creating so much chaos in my life. And I knew if something didn't change and change soon, I can only drown it out for so long. I can only drink so much. I can only do so much drug. I can only go party so much before my body shuts down. And I went that route, make no mistake. I tried to drown it out. I tried to ignore it. I tried to numb it as much as I could through every pursuit that this world offered me. And I realized if something didn't change and change soon, like my life is going to be over. My mother is going to get a phone call. My father and my brothers are getting a phone call that Caleb just committed suicide, because I couldn't handle it anymore. The screaming in my head was just beyond anything that I've ever been able to even consider handling in my life. And I knew if something didn't change and change soon, it was over.
And that's when I stopped looking for answers and started asking questions. What is success? Why am I afraid of failure? Is success and fulfillment synonymous? The questions that I asked in this season revolutionized my life. And for the first time ever, I finally found what I was looking for.
You know, I think that there's a new season for the church that's on the horizon right now, with really celebrating the individual, celebrating the gift and the dream and the God purpose that has been placed on the inside of every person. Caleb is an example of that. When he first came with us, and I first met him a number of years ago, is a phenomenal person, just a great, gifted and talented and awesome person to be with. Just finding the situations that just couldn't get the rubber on the road, just couldn't get any traction towards the purpose and plan that he believed that was the purpose that was on the inside of his heart. And so Caleb, what he discovered as we were discovering it together, was that as we begin to change the belief systems and the perceptions of our heart, what starts to open up is an understanding of not only an understanding of the journey, but the ability to start getting traction towards that destiny.
I remember waking up and just this thought like hit my heart, this voice, these words hit my heart, and it was, Caleb, you are qualified. And whenever those words hit my heart, Caleb, you are qualified, everything changed for me. Because I'm looking back and I'm realizing that the reason why I didn't have opportunities that came to me, or I didn't experience these opportunities that I'm experiencing now, it's not because of skill set, it's not because of talent, it's not because of anointing, it's not because of gifting, it's not because of those things. I wasn't receiving, or I wasn't having opportunities come my way because I didn't necessarily believe that I was worth those opportunities. And that's why I built a life on performance, because whenever I performed well and whenever I achieved a measure of success, that's when I thought I was qualified enough to actually have opportunities, or to actually have a happy life, or to actually live a successful life. But the problem with that is it was never good enough. Performance after performance after performance, I realized that there was no measure of performance that was going to deem me worthy enough to be loved, to deem me worthy enough to be accepted, to deem me worthy enough to be qualified so that I could live the life that I actually want to live. The problem that we have that 99% of the world isn't talking about is a self-hatred problem, because deep down we don't actually believe that we're worth the opportunities that are coming our way. So if you actually want to see more opportunities come your way, ask yourself if you in the first place think that you're worth those opportunities, because that right there is the doorway to the life that you actually want to live.